Okay, well, since you brought up negatives, and it made me think of math because I teach sometimes, and I think that what we're looking at here, and we'll talk about it more in the manosphere conversation, but what we're looking at here is the fact that you can have an equation, and it's not always going to give you a positive or a negative outcome. It depends on the input. So you can have this equation of a single parent, and it doesn't necessarily give you a feminized male. It depends on the input of the mother you have and the conditions that the child is raised in, and how much attention is given, and how much time is given, and then what other factors and forces there are around. So I agree with everybody who said this was an overgeneralization that should not have been made by any person of reasonable intelligence. You can draw your own conclusions there. That being said, what does she even mean when she says processing emotions like a woman, as though it's a bad thing, as though it's shade? Do you mean like to feel deeply? You mean like to examine all of your emotions to see if they're valid? You mean to go through everything that you feel to figure out which one of those things you really feel? You mean to cry instead of to collapse? Do you mean, if we're talking being feminized in terms of that, then maybe men should do more of that. Maybe not all of that, but if let's be honest, let's cut the men some breaks, y'all. Women get their whole lives to figure out what their feelings mean and how to deal with them. But men are supposed to have it figured out by the time we say, I'm a man. We're not allowed to be able to feel all the things we're feeling in one moment. We got to pick one thing and be that one thing in this moment because everybody needs us to be something. So the landscape is different. The hands are not the same. I don't even know we play in the same game sometimes because emotionally stunted masculinity is killing us. How is it the same people who are complaining about toxic masculinity are also now complaining that men are too feminine? It's weird. This is literally and spiritually, we are going left and right at the same time. Let's be honest. Yes, a lack of consistent male presence does shape how men interact with not only other men but women, right? And men are learning. They're learning about women from their mother. They're learning about emotions from their mom and how they're going to process themselves at the same time. There are a lot of moving parts happening right then. A lot of them. And so, yeah, I can expect a young man might be disoriented, but to automatically assume that this young man will somehow be emotionally lost is careless. And it's belittling and demeaning to all the people who have done this journey successfully. And they didn't make any fuss about it. They didn't ask for any plaques. They didn't go on your podcast. They didn't call you Dr. Bryant because they're not listening to you. They're too busy on their hustle. So let's flip the script. I do think it's a dig at single mothers. I don't think it's a plea for male accountability at all. Because if we really want balance, then we talk about the men who checked out. We talk about the absence of the fathers and why. And then we'd say, if these women aren't properly able to raise the man, why are they holding on to the boys? That'd be the conversation we'd be having if we were really trying to have a community-driven conversation. And when she's ready to have that conversation, maybe then I'll tune into what she's got to say.
Boom, shack.
Hold on, I got to push back. I got to push back on something. I got to push back on something because Jay, so this, y'all, so, I did the whole, thing on the previous part of the conversation, so feel free to tap in there. So let me turn the hat around a little bit. First of all, Jay, I'm going to call cap on a couple of things. Number one, this idea that women react emotionally in a healthy, productive way. Let's start there. Because you were describing that, how women deal, you mean like by communicating? You mean by regulating? No, what y'all missed, it didn't hit me until you said what you said. What y'all missed was Dr. Cheyenne Bryant was telling on herself and women as a whole. You know what I mean? Because what she was saying is, yes, to emote like a woman is a problem, or at least when both people are doing it. Now, if she makes the sliver of, hey, we need a balance, okay, I could buy that a little bit, but too much estrogen is a problem. We know this is true because we hear about our wives' relationships with other women. We know this is true just off of GP. So how are we going to pretend that she's not telling on y'all, right? Because what she's saying is that if men left to the devices of only women, that the only thing that's going to be that they're going to soak up for them is some emotional, uncontrollable shit that's not going to show up well with another woman in a relationship, right? She wouldn't say that about a father. Right? She wouldn't say that, the daughter is going to pick up too many manly traits and she might become a butch nigga. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? So Dr. Cheyenne Bryant just inadvertently told, right? And she did. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm pushing back, Jay, and let's also be honest, as men who, I think what the problem is, and I think you kind of drew a falsehood here. You can be a man and masculine and still communicate your feelings effectively without being deemed emotional. There's ways that you can communicate the things that you're dealing with without losing your temper necessarily, without yelling at a high-pitched voice or throwing tantrums, right? That type of lack of emotional regulation are the things that have been hallmarked by women, right? Because for men, you made the case that men can't even communicate. So we're not supposed to even do that in the healthiest form. At least that's how we've been taught, right? So the ways that we as men are expected to show up is not to emote at all. And I'm saying bullshit, right? Because there's a way for you to still have emotions and to communicate your emotions effectively to another human being with the desire of solving a problem. In fact, when people talk about what men are supposed to be and how men are supposed to show up, aren't those the attributes that we want from men, right? So I got to push back on this idea that being emotional, it means that you have to emote erratically, like unfortunately women are known to do, or how they excuse that they do it because of their period and shit. Like, what the fuck you mean? There's a whole, listen, man,
I'm calling bullshit.
There are, you're going to have a chance to rebut, but there are cultural things that we've already talked about in the relationship space. This is not Nick making it up, right? This is stuff that we talk about in terms of how men bring logic to the situation, and women sometimes are the more emotional ones. They have all these different reasons, like their bodies, like their hormones, whether it's pregnancy, postpartum, or what menopause, these different things. They're, what do you call it? The word that escapes me, right? Things in their bodies that change. So this is not Nick making it up, that is fused through science. So what I'm saying is, if the idea that a young boy is only being exposed to that type of energy and that could be problematic, right, then she's not that far off. The problem becomes, to Jay's point, what we all said is that which woman are you talking about? And if we were to sit there and try to isolate it for what percentage of women do you think are healthy enough to raise a young boy with the mindset to make sure he has a man's presence around them, then that's a different conversation. Maybe that's the conversation too. And Jay, last thing I'm gonna say, since we want to get to this full cock gender war with it, right? Yes, the nigga is missing, but it's her body, her choice. The fuck are we talking about, fam? When people are adults and they have to make decisions, I'm not saying a woman should do anything except the responsibility of the choices that she also made. Yes, the nigga sucks, but that doesn't mean a woman still can't have masculine and male presence in that child's life. It might be an extra thing that she has to be intentional about. Are women going to churches? Are they going to events in their communities? Are they actively participating out there with others where their child can get that kind of exposure? Right? There's things that people can do, and some women aren't doing those things. So we got to be honest about that too. So go ahead, Esther, if you want to shoot back. You feel me? Let's go.
So first I'll allow Jay to do it, since Jay, you was pushing back on Jay commentary first.
So his pushback on my comment wasn't whatever. His pushback was that I didn't fully call women out and say that her statement saying that two people in a relationship acting like a woman is a problem, it would suggest that women are problematic by themselves. Now, my answer to that is, of course, having only one kind of energy is problematic. You see, usually in lesbian couples, or usually in homosexual couples, let me say that, you will see one person representing as more feminine and the other representing with more masculine energy, even though they may be homosexual, right? It's just there's that interplay, that balance. Two people can't both move necessarily the exact same way, because then they might not complement each other. If you take two crabs, right, they both step sideways, nobody's ever going to go forward until somebody shifts, because there's the way that they move. So my pushback to Nick is, I'm trying to give people some bail and some grace today. I already messed up with the older ladies, man, and I feel like there's some women who are strong, and I feel like, honestly, I feel like the men who were raised by single moms who did not have a choice in it, they just end up being single moms. I was raised by a single mom. I feel like they catching a stray right now from Dr. Bryant, and I don't appreciate it. So I just want to talk to them real quick, and then y'all can go on to y'all conversation. I want to tell them, y'all not broken, okay? You're not less than, all right? You just learn from survival. You learn how to blend. You learn a different side of women, right? You just learned it from you came to school a different way, right? You was in the other class. And that's okay, all right? You learned about your feelings, and you want to express your feelings. That's okay too, man. You just got to find somebody who cares about hearing about your feelings. And you got to know when you can't be in your feelings, because that's part of being a man. And if you haven't learned that, then your mama did you a disservice. And then holler back, because we're going to have to get back and talk about like what it is to be raised in a man on a manosphere conversation.